The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the guards cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. They ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm a bow wow, you can hear it from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
Welcome back to Haymaker Combat Sport. I'm your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson. Excited to announce we're in the new era, fellas. Thrilled to announce that we're having an exciting new partnership with Belly Up Sports Network. And being a part of this network will enable us to provide our listeners with even more engaging and insightful content through the power of podcasting and reach a broader audience. And we're excited to be on board and get this ball rolling.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Excited to get out there. You know, like we've said from the beginning, we're not exactly professionals and claim to know it all. We're just for the fans, by the fans.
Exactly. So we're ready to take this show to the next level. So thanks to Belly Up Sports Network for bringing us on board. And this is the UFC 296 preview show. And like we always do in these preview shows, we want to talk about stories from inside or outside of the cage. Admire, did you have anything on your radar? I think I know where you might be going with this one.
I had a few things that came across my feed. Just a few things to touch on. The first one, GSP has announced he is not coming back for UFC 300, so that's off the table. I know we kind of were, you know, I was talking some rumors last show, what I've heard, and the GSP rumors off the table.
Hold up, it was a possibility of him maybe even coming back. I didn't hear about that one.
There was a few rumors floating around about it. He's been a little more active recently on social media and stuff. And I'd heard that Dana White had reached out to him. I don't know if it was true. Like I said, it's a rumor, but that rumor has been debunked now. He's not making the comeback for that. I haven't heard any other UFC 300 news or any rumors other than what we covered last time. Other news, this one's actually kind of cool, and it relates to the pre-show that we're doing. They do have a backup fighter that is prepared in case Covington or Edwards has to pull out. Bilal Muhammad is the backup in case anything happens. So we do have a backup fighter on deck. That main event will carry on with him if something happens. So that's pretty cool. The only other news I have is I'm sick of people wanting to be champs. Colby Covington and Edwards have said that if they win, they want to move up and fight Sean Strickland. They both want Strickland. Get some wins in your own weight class, man. Like, leave it alone.
That's a good segue to my topic because I was searching the World Wide Web, and I couldn't really find anything exciting going on outside of talking about this fight. But I did see a little soundbite or quote from Colby Covington, and he was talking about Sean Strickland. And I guess are they cut from the similar cloth? I feel like Sean Strickland doesn't really lean on the political stuff as much as Colby does. I feel like he just says more off the wall stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
how do you feel about the comparison?
Yeah, Sean Strickland, he's a loose cannon. He's willing to talk shit on both sides of the political spectrum. You know, we know what side Colby's on. So, I mean, but I kind of, like you said, I do think of them as kind of like the same type, though. I mean, they're just big shit talkers, and I don't know. I want to see them fight? I think the trash talk would be unbelievable leading up to it. But I mean, I know Colby's gonna try to take him down, but I think Sean Strickland's too big if that were to ever happen. And I don't want it to happen. If whoever wins this main event this weekend needs to stay in their division. I think there needs to be a rule. You need to notch 5 wins as champ before you move up and fight for another belt.
But will the trash talker be that good though? I mean, we all know that if Kobe doesn't have a script in front of him, he stumbles and fumbles his words. I feel like Strickland may run circles around him in the trash talking.
And I think Strickland already won their first, spar of words. Strickland was like, dude, you talked shit to Fabricio Verdum and ran from him. You called the cops on Jorge after he ran up on you. Like, you're just all talk.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Kobe gets hyped up and only gets hyped up with people who he actually has a valid storyline with, if that makes sense. If he knows that, like Jorge, he was a little loose on his words because he is actually valid that he whooped him in the apartments, which I don't know if y'all seen them videos. He used to little bro him, and, having information on him versus talking to people that he really doesn't have background or really can say, he would stumble words versus I think Strickland shit talks off of, I would guess, the soul. You know what I'm saying? He's very genuine to where you said what Kobe said out of his mouth. He had to change his own persona, which is not real, to even stay in the UFC. So Strickland made it, I guess, his charisma from straight being himself, from the self. Kobe had to get outside of himself to be the person he is now, and that's the difference.
And I think Colby kind of, when he talks, though, it's always Twitter fingers, or it's somewhere that he can be divided from the other person. It's never like running up and face to face. Like you see Sean Strickland, he'll talk shit anywhere. Like he doesn't care. And, because Sean Strickland seems like a street dude that's just willing to bang no matter what. And Colby's kind of like, he's just trying to do exactly what we're doing. We're talking about him. He's trying to get the clicks. He's trying to get the views. He's trying to stay in the headlines. But I mean, a lot of his stuff is scripted, but I think it still would be a good lead up if it were to happen. It would be a lot of shit talk.
But go ahead, Steve.
This is why I believe out of all sports, which combat sports, I don't know if you even call it a sport. You don't play it. It's the most unique thing, because how are you gonna even call out somebody for saying even thing bad out your words, to where we even see in our today's society and reality what's worse than words? Putting your hands on somebody. So this is what I like about the fighting game. You can say what you want because you're doing worse than words when you get to the ring.
Yeah, you're going to find out. Like, you can talk all you want, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to throw down and fight.
Yeah.
So, going back to Kobe and Sean Strickland, Sean Strickland put out a quote, and I'm reading this word for word. Who is he talking to in this quote? Ahead of this fight, he's talking to the media, and this is reported by MMA Junkie. Kobe said, in regards to Sean Strickland, he's pretending to be everything he wishes I was. Reading this word for word. I'm going to read that again. He's pretending to be everything he wishes I was. I'd love to slap Sean Strickland around. He's just a pathetic excuse of a human being. The guy has literally no fucking IQ, freaking IQ. The guy's so fucking stupid. The things he said, he needs to get his mouth wired shut, and I'm the guy to do it. So, while mocking this guy's IQ, he says he's pretending to be everything he wishes I was.
That's almost like who is it? Dickie Weber or Pete Weber, the bowler? Kind of getting them words mixed up. Who do you think you am? I are.
Yeah.
Like getting it all mixed up. But I mean, it's stupid to me right now. It's fight week, and both Edwards and Covington are looking ahead to other fights. Like, they don't seem concentrated on each other. Like, they're already looking at moving up and fighting for another belt. Like, I don't know. It's gotten out of hand. Like, we got a couple double champs, have happened, and they're just looking at it way too soon.
I mean, in boxing, it's one thing where it's only like 3 pounds in between some of the weight limits, but yeah, it doesn't make sense to really have a quote unquote super fight unless y'all are both on these tremendous winning streaks where you're like, the fans are clamoring for it. Like, all right, now we got to see these two fights. Back to the person you were talking about earlier, GSP, we were clamoring for him to fight Anderson Silva because at that time, that moment in time, both pretty much seem unbeatable. So you're like,
and they both cleaned out their division. Like, none of these people that are calling for this have cleaned out their division. There's some people in their divisions that I think that they're avoiding too.
Hey, who go on?
Oh, I mean, you have, a lot of different guys that are up there at the top that are kind of people that they don't want to face. Like, okay, so Colby Covington, he never got to beat Usman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why should you move up? You haven't cleaned out your division. If we go through and look, I mean, we just talked about it, like, I think 2 weeks ago, Leon Edwards. How many wins does he have against top 5 guys in the welterweight division? I think there's a lot of guys he hasn't faced. And I think me and you, EJ, actually agreed that Edwards really probably couldn't beat anybody that's in that top 5.
I have to see the top 5.
I'm going to pull it up now just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure.
I mean, we'll get into the nuts and the bolts of the fight when we actually start previewing this thing. But
so, I mean, okay, so just in welterweight, Leon Edwards, of course, the champ. Usman 1, Muhammad 2, Covington 3, Gilbert Burns 4, Shavkat is 5. Now, do you think that
we're going to talk about that monster Shavkat Rockmanoff a little later, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like, I don't think that Edwards or Covington want any part of him.
And what was the number 3 and 4?
Covington's 3, Gilbert Burns is 4.
I don't think he'd be afraid of Gilbert Burns. And where was Bilal Muhammad in that one?
Number 2.
And I don't think he has either one of them have a problem fighting him either.
You don't think so?
Nah. Don't get me wrong, Bilal Muhammad is like a fighter that he's game and it's an annoying fighter that you don't want to fight. But I don't think he puts the fear of God into anybody. I think the reason they don't want to fight him is because maybe the name value, not because he's like a scary dude. That guy, Shavkat, nope, nobody wants to fight him. I go on a limb and say nobody wants to fight him, but
yeah, that's what I heard.
Bilal, I don't see him as a big bad wolf of the division. How about you, Steve?
He hasn't lost since 2019.
What I was thinking, what was his last loss? Because I think like you said, his last loss 2019. I can't remember who it was against.
Jeff Neal.
So there's a little MMA math to where there's possibilities that he can't take everybody. As far as Bilal, I think he can be overcame. Matter of fact, I don't know if we forgot, he actually went at it for a few minutes with the champion, Edwards. No, what's his name? Fighting Colby, right?
Yeah, Leon Edwards and Muhammad. It was a no contest.
Right. That eye poke one,
I looked.
Yeah.
Huh?
Was
From
that
what I
eye
saw,
poking?
yeah. From what I saw, it looked like Edwards was looking pretty dominant in that fight and very comfortable until that eye poke. So that's what I think about it. I don't think Bilal is an elite fighter of his class.
Nah, I'm just saying. I think there's plenty of fights for Covington and Edwards. They shouldn't be talking about it.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
the division is far from being cleared,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about our predictions for the fight. So, and
Yeah. The only other news I had is I don't know if we talked about it, but I know 2-3 weeks ago PFL signed a new contract with ESPN.
oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. What were the details of the contract?
I know that a lot of their shows were supposed to be on there.
I mean, yeah, they've been. I know they started to do a couple pay-per-views, maybe have like 1 or 2 under their belt. But is there any like new details as far as like this new deal? Are they going to be a little more visible?
The deal keeps PFL regular season playoffs and world championships on ESPN and ESPN Plus in the USA in a multi-year contract.
So it's basically nothing new about it. They just extended it. What do y'all think, Dana? How do y'all think Dana feels about it?
He's still getting paid, so I mean, he whether he cares or not, he's always going to act like he doesn't care. So you don't really know what he thinks. I mean, to me, it helps the UFC because it's more MMA out there. The more MMA that's out there, the more fans you can gain, and it's just going to bring people that don't watch the UFC to the UFC. I mean, I don't think any person that's currently not a fan of MMA would watch PFL but not watch UFC. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't, if you don't know baseball and you start watching, the minor leagues, you're not going to not go watch the MLB, in which, we treat the UFC like it is the major league. So I think it's good for the UFC. So, I mean, Dana White has to like it. And then other PFL news, I did hear a rumor that they might try to match up Ryan Bader and Francis Ngannou.
Slaughter.
Yeah, just slaughtering. Like Bader hasn't always been, had the best stand up. He does have some knockouts over some older fighters, but Ngannou would just starch him.
We saw with John Jones. What was that, Steve?
I said, I would do the $1 million sacrifice. Because he said a person would get $1 million who he competed with off top. So,
right,
you do the $1 million sacrifice, even though you might be taking 10 years off of your life.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't live, but we all got to gamble. Gamble somewhere.
We all saw what John Jones did debate at light heavyweight. What do you think happened going against Ngannou at heavyweight? Some guy who hits a lot harder than Jones hit, and Jones just wrecked him. Even though that was 12 years ago, but still.
Oh, I remember. I was there at that fight. I was at Jones versus Bader, and I put $600 on Ryan Bader to beat John Jones. That's my claim to fame.
Why would you do such a thing?
I was on the Bader hype train. He was coming off the Ultimate Fighter, and at that point, I think Bader was undefeated. He trained with Cain Velasquez. He was an Arizona State wrestler. I didn't believe in John Jones back then.
I did. I got on the John Jones hype train in 2010, the year before. When he was starching the janitor, I'm like, all right, this kid is a problem, even though he's a year older than me. But
the janitor, what was his name? Holy shit.
Matushenko. I'm probably botching the name. Is Matushenko the janitor?
Oh my gosh, I forgot all about him.
He was European. He's European. I'm botching his name, so excuse me, the janitor. They'll come after me. But that's why I always call him the janitor, because
Vladimir Matushenko. Yeah, that's who it was. I remember that.
yeah, I was watching that in the hotel room. I was watching that live on like it was like on Versus or something like that, or Fuel. And I'm like, all right, I'm not betting against this kid. You know, we've seen a lot of prospects, and sometimes it could be a hit or sometimes it could be a miss. But
Yep, and that was on the Versus channel.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of upsetting that you put that much money on Bader.
I did, man. I put $600 on Bader. I put $600 on Rich Franklin to beat Forrest Griffin, and then I put $600 on Vitor Belfort to beat Anderson Silva. All three of them lost.
Well, I kind of don't blame you for the Vitor Belfort, because Anderson Silva was coming off a squeaking that win off of Chael Sonnen.
Yep.
And I think this is back when Vitor was juiced to the gills. TRT Vitor.
Yeah, he was on a tear, man. He was beating everybody. He was juiced and muscled up. Like, he actually looked really good starting out against Silva. And then Silva pulled that famous front kick straight up the middle, right to his jaw. I was there, man. And that was the first card that the WEC fighters got to fight. So I got to see Cowboy Cerrone, Kid Yamamoto, and a couple of the other guys that came over. I think Brian Stan might have been on that too.
Good times. That was right before I think that was right before the Fox era too. So this was back when it was a little more raw. The rosters weren't as bloated. I think the Fox deal is when they're like, all right, we got to put a card on most every week. And then ESPN, they just got ridiculous with it. Fox, it was still not as ridiculous as it was with ESPN. They're putting on these fights at the Apex that have like one.
You remember the first Fox fight?
Yeah, it was Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos.
Yeah, and he got knocked out in like 18 seconds or something.
Yeah, he got knocked. That's what I thought JDS was going to be like the next big thing, and then he lost it the next fight and got starched the next two fights against JDS. Man. Against JDS, my bad. Against Cain Velasquez, he got starched the next two times against Cain Velasquez. Yeah. If Cain Velasquez wasn't so injury prone, he would have been probably like the greatest of all time, man. Just with his skill set at that size.
Yeah, he had crazy cardio too, and that's why everybody thought he was going to beat Fabricio Verdum, because they were fighting down in Mexico, and they just thought Cain had this immaculate cardio, and then he got beat.
C-level Cain. C-level Cain. The Cain Velasquez you want to face is C-level Cain. Yeah. I mean, and then that whole thing with him getting arrested was a whole crazy. I mean, you can't blame him, of course. If not gonna get into the nitty gritty of this, but y'all know the story.
Yeah, I don't know whatever happened with that. I think he was like still out on bail or something, because he had to get an exemption to go corner somebody.
And I think a lot of people that were in the MMA community or in his community sent a lot of letters to Congress or City Hall to overchange things around. So I think that's good that happened for him.
I think he's still out on bail. It's a chance he might go to jail for a long time.
Because I think they were considering no bail for him for at first.
Yeah, they were. He was locked up for like a year or two, I want to say.
Yeah, wasn't he like chasing a guy, shooting at him or something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the only thing. Yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, any man, if that was accused of his family member, would do the same thing. But according to the law, you just can't just be a vigilante and start shooting people. Because he shot somebody that wasn't the guy he was going after. Yeah, he shot somebody that he wasn't aiming for, which is probably like the biggest reason why he got into the trouble that he is. But yeah, messed up situation. But hopefully it all works out for Cain Velasquez. But I know one more story. I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, Admire. I thought it was the one that you're gonna bring up. The new signee to PFL.
Who?
We were posted about it. You know who?
Post?
A certain guy that throws Pokeballs at people.
Oh, MVP. Yeah. Yeah, man, he don't want no part of that bare knuckle shit.
I mean, why would he? No, but didn't he fight? Didn't he fight a bare knuckle fight randomly?
He did. He
Mike
got
Perry.
beat up, man, by Mike Perry. Like Mike Perry beat his ass.
Yeah, but aside from the bare knuckle, y'all think this is the move? He's like 37. Hey, this was like the time if he was gonna make the move to UFC, this would have been the time to do it. So is that it? That's probably it for the prospect of him going to UFC.
Yeah, I mean that's the best move for him because he did very well over in Bellator. I know he lost to Douglas Lima, and then I think he had another loss over there or something. But he came to the UFC, right? And then didn't he lose 2 over here and then got released or something like that? Or am I thinking somebody else?
As far as you talking about MVP?
Yeah.
He
I think he came to the UFC for like, or
no.
He never came to the
UFC.
He never came. That's right. He never came. They were in discussion.
Yeah, he never came. That's why I'm saying, like, is this going to be like a what if type of story? Because it's cool that you're over in the PFL, and now that they acquired Bellator, they're clearly the number 2 organization. But it's the equivalent of it's cool to be in the USFL, but you still want to see if you could actually make it to the NFL. So y'all think MVP will regret this in the long run?
I don't think so. I mean, he's got to do what he's got to do. I mean, if he couldn't work something out with the UFC, this is the next best thing to do. And he'll probably do better here. He's going to be facing a lot of the same guys he's already faced with that Bellator PFL merger. So, I mean, I pulled up his record, and he's only got 2 losses. And the one to Douglas Lima, he came back and he avenged that loss already. He has a loss against Logan Storley. But, yeah, I mean, it's the same pool of guys that he was going against. I don't know. It's hard to tell what he would do in the UFC.
Steve?
I think unless you are a big name, which he is, which I think he made his decisions. I'm pretty sure at this far in his career, he has good management. I feel like a lot of how UFC pays its currency out is advertisement. And since probably lowballed him or just gave him more advertising, which he already has, like I said, you got Ngannou in PFL. Pretty sure they're paying out the top fighters, even though there's Bellator was 3rd or secondary to in UFC. You still have a high priority fighters, and I think they wanted MVP, which I think he probably made a good decision because he might have saw that in the UFC and he was like, well, you're paying me this, but why do that? Because I already got the publicity. You see a lot of new people come, they don't get paid, but they may get promoted harder to have a boost in maybe viewership to boost their income on fights and getting their own fight nights and eventually pay-per-views to see how many views and numbers. And I think that's how they pay out rather than PFL straight up getting the cash.
Yeah, and what you said makes sense to me now. I think that being with PFL, he gets a bigger push. I don't think the UFC would push him and, treat him like a star, like, he was treated in Bellator. I think PFL will really push him towards the top and promote him a lot better. So I think that, equals money, and his money's going to be better over there. I did see something cool as I pulled up his record here. He trains at a place called Haymaker HQ.
There you go. See the tie-in right there? All comes for a circle. So did they lay out the terms of the agreement, Admire? Because unless you're a special attraction via Clarissa Shields, even Francis Ngannou, they're gonna, or Jake Paul, because he's in there as well, they're gonna make you fight in the season. So how could he be treated as a special attraction if he's fighting in the season and then going in the playoffs. I feel like he'll just fall in line with the other PFL fighters.
I'm trying to see if they have the details of his contract. They already have a fight booked.
When is that?
They're talking about that Cedric Dombe. Again, he's like a kickboxer. He's a French kickboxer. I wish I knew the details of his contract.
But yeah, if he's just lumped in with the rest of the fighters in the regular season, I don't see how that benefits you. And I don't even know if he has the name. He's big with the hardcore fight fans and whatnot. And we know him because we watch a lot of fights. Go ahead, Steve.
That bare knuckle probably boosted his points a little bit too, even though he did lose just for publicity. He fought Mike Perry. So he's not like an unknown, he has credentials on him, I guess, so to speak.
Like the well-informed fans like us, we know MVP because of his highlights, and especially early on in his career, he used to clown around in the ring before he stepped his competition up a little. But I don't know what more eyes does he bring to PFL and vice versa. I just see it as like a lateral move. But like you said, he's probably getting paid more with PFL. So more power to him. Get the bag.
Yeah. Just looking through all the headlines and stuff of it, Kevin Holland came out and said that MVP going to PFL is a money move rather than a legacy move. So, I mean, even Kevin Holland saying he's going to make more money over in PFL. But, yeah, I don't know that MVP brings more eyes to PFL. I think it helps. I mean, the bare knuckle thing, as Steve mentioned, but the people, like, I imagine there has to be hardcore Bellator fans, right? There were people that were like hardcore into it. I mean, they're going to make the jump to PFL if they see MVP over there. Some of them are, some in MVP. I mean, he was at the top of his game forever. So there's people that MVP is their number one, favorite fighter. They're going to go wherever he goes. I don't know.
I mean, I'd love there to be more eyes on the product as a whole, but I don't know how much of a splash that makes. I mean, obviously they see something. Maybe they crunch the numbers and see how much traffic he gets and followers he has, and they're like, all right, we're gonna pay you this. But I agree with Holland. It's a money move, I guess, instead of a legacy move. And I don't know his pockets. Maybe he needs that money.
Let's see.
I know I would like to see him just test his mettle in the UFC, even if he gets knocked out. I don't think they would throw him into the wolves with a top 10 welterweight or anything like that.
That's like I was gonna say I got the welterweight UFC rankings pulled up. Let's say, for instance, he signed with the UFC. Where do you think he lands in that top 10? Or does he land in the top 10?
I don't think they would throw him. I don't think they would put him against the top 15 at first.
I have a small question. Is PFL mostly based out of the East, or do they come to the West?
It's a United States company.
United States company? Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering if he was considering, because he's from Britain or London, if he's staying over there or choosing a company because of that.
Remember, PFL is going to start going to other countries. I wonder if that's what their tie-in is with him.
The Bellator International Series is something that they're going to do, but we don't know the details of that. But he signed with PFL, so I guess they could just throw him in the Bellator International Series.
They can kind of do what they want out of both leagues.
Yeah, that's a interesting move, but can't knock the guy for getting his money and whatnot. I probably won't be interested. I mean, I'll be interested if I catch a fight on, but a lot of times I don't even hear about an MVP fight. So if I happen to catch it, then of course I'll be watching. But they'll have to promote it. And hopefully they can do that now that PFL's acquired them. But we'll keep our eyes out on what happens with that. Anything that come across your radar, Steve?
Nothing too much. Seeing just the little things. Connor's always popping up.
Again, what do you say?
Nothing too big. It's just a little. I guess people say like he's interjecting himself in the tabloids all the time. Something with Peter Yan just coming behind him and playing like he's choking him and doing a face off with him. People always saying Connor's awkward or some shit like that. But other than that, I do not hear too much. Which the one I did have was the rumor with I thought MVP and Kevin Holland, but obviously that's not the case. That's all I think I know of.
Going back to Connor and Yan, the way Connor's been trending lately, Yan might be able to beat him, even though Connor outweighs him by a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean,
Peter Yan's scrappy. He can fight.
Yeah, he's scrappy and just. I mean, what shape is Connor in? Like, remember he used to post like training videos constantly. Like it was always him with. Remember Diaz called him the touch butt coach. Always doing that weird movement stuff. But we don't even see Connor train anymore. So it's weird that he keeps injecting himself into every situation and everything like that. They've got to be announcing UFC 300 stuff soon, and I'm still betting on they're trying to get something worked with McGregor. The other piece of news was today, I think they signed Curtis Blaze against Almeida for $299. So they're rounding out $299. So 300's next. I mean, they got to start throwing people on that card. So we should be getting 300 news soon.
I really don't care if Connor's on that card or not. I hope he's not on it. I'm kind of over Connor at this point. And not really because of his outside of the cage antics, which a lot of them are despicable if he's actually doing the stuff that they accuse him of. More so of that, you just put up or shut up. If you're not going to fight, then just retire. Like, I'm tired of this. Is he going to fight? Is he not going to fight? Whole deal that they got going on with him.
He's taken no lesser than a main event. So saying that he hasn't been anywhere to be in main event position, what is he going to make a deal for if he's not going to be main event? I don't think we're going to see it.
Right. And he hasn't fought in over 2 years. He's coming off back-to-back losses. Like he can't be the main event, but I mean, he's still going to draw. Like people are going to tune in to see if he can still fight. People are going to tune in to see him win. People are going to tune in to see him lose. He's still going to bring a lot of value to the card, but don't put him in the main event spot at all. And it's 300. It's a monumental, event. They have to have a title out there.
We have to wait till see if Dan is going to shake his wand and bend the rules.
Right. That, and I mean, if I'm Michael Chandler, I'm moving on from McGregor and find another fight. Chandler did Ultimate Fighter with him, expecting a fight, and it's been delayed. At this point, it's been delayed 4 months from when it was supposed to happen.
So when is 299 supposed to happen, Admire?
UFC 299. Let's see. UFC 299. Let's see. It is March 9th, headlined by Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera.
It's March. Ooh, because I was going to say, if I were UFC, I'd be doing everything, sending the best specialists out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and trying to fast track John Jones to get ready. But April might be a little too soon, depending on when he tore that pec. Because that's the only splash name I could think of outside of Connor that would get the whole world excited for 300. But I don't know if he can make April. Yeah, Connor might be the only hope for like a splash name.
I don't know. John Jones had surgery a month ago.
That's still April. That's still quick for a pec. And that's you know what? I don't feel bad for UFC. This is their fault for not building up stars making it like a machine and not having bigger than life personalities promoting them like that. And look where that got them. They don't really have anybody to headline 300 is like a splash name. So that's on them for trying to make the company so generic. You don't have fighters coming out to their own gear now. Everybody's at the uniform, no sponsorships. Like, remember like the Condom Depot back in the day? They used to be entertaining.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think the UFC just put too much stock in like some of the, like 5 main fighters and ran with it, and then they're kind of left with nothing. They did put a lot into Ngannou, but didn't re-sign him. They put a lot into John Jones, but he got injured. They put a lot into McGregor, and the dude's all over the place. Like, I'm almost thinking like Alex Pereira might be somebody that they're putting a lot of stock in that maybe they'll throw into 300.
I mean, they could put a lot of stock into it, but at this point, he's not like a huge name outside of the MMA community. And for 300, this is a fight you want to show people 10, 20 years on the line and be like, all right, this was a big deal. And they had Brock Lesnar at 200. That was a big name. Jones was supposed to be on that one, and he couldn't make it. And, I mean, what do you really remember that card for? Because it was Amanda Nunes. No disrespect to her. She was the one in the main event. They had Silva and Cormier, so I feel like they didn't get as much juice as they wanted to at a 200, and I feel like this would be the card to get that back. And I don't know if they could pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, even UFC 100 was a huge card. 100 had Brock Lesnar on it.
GSP was on that one.
GSP, John Fitch, like Dan Henderson.
John Jones was on the prelims of that.
Yeah, Mark Coleman was on it. Filthy Tom Lawler.
So, yeah, I just don't see it happening. It wouldn't hurt if Pierre was on there. Maybe it would be like one thing that looking back at it retroactively, if Pierre goes on to be a legend, like, I remember he's at 300, but at this point, he's still building his name.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking through all the rankings and everything, and nothing sticks out like, oh, they got to have that person on UFC 300. Not like it used to be.
Yeah, and that's the UFC's fault for making it so generic. They don't want a fighter to be bigger than the company, which is understandable from their perspective, because you don't want another Conor situation, but it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah. And like I said, with looking at these rankings and nobody sticking out as like a must-have on that fight card, that's why it makes me think that they're going to try to bring somebody back or do a circus fight or something. They're going to have to do something because there's not a lot of major heavy hitters that are available.
Bring CM Punk back.
I mean,
you can bring the Paul brothers in. Bring the Paul brothers in.
That would bring eyes, just something to watch. Because you know what? Just by the fact we're speaking of this, I can't think of anybody significant for that 300, man.
What if they like thought really outside about? They brought in like a Deontay Wilder in.
Dude, that's what I was just gonna say. Deontay Wilder's been saying that he wants to try MMA. Deontay Wilder against Derek Lewis.
Deontay Wilder would get his whole life changed if he tried that. It wouldn't be pretty, but that's like a splash move. It'd bring eyes on it to see Deontay Wilder get completely wrecked.
Yeah.
You know who UFC 300 needs? And I'm going to make this prediction since it's the end of the year. Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel will be champ when we're doing this at the end of next year.
That's a bold prediction, but is it middleweight? I think that's probably contingent on the basis of whether we see Adesanya next year. I don't think he said he's going to be gone until 2027. I don't see that happening, but what if he does take the whole next year off? I could see Nickel sneaking up in there, even though it'd be a hell of a fast track, but we saw them do that for Sean O'Malley, so why not?
And Nickel
the
got
guy-
in kind of the same way. He got in through the Contender Series.
I still haven't really seen enough of Bo Nickel to put in money on that bet, but who knows? Anything can happen. I think he'd have to fight 2 more times, and then those 2 times he have to fight top 5 dudes. You think they would put him in that position?
I could see them throwing him in against like probably a Chimaev if he gets one more win. Just because they're both big wrestlers, and I mean, Bo Nickel's an amazing wrestler, man. There's like wrestlers, and then there's this dude. Like I went back and watched some of his college highlights. Dude can scramble. I think his dad is a jiu-jitsu coach or something. Like he's trained his whole life different, disciplines. So I think if he notches one more win, they're going to fast track him. So I would be surprised if they throw him on the 300 card. He ain't going to headline it or anything, but
he could be
he'll be on
nice. He'd be a nice Kurt jerker. The only reason why I'm not opposed to this fast track, because usually when they get fast track, I roll my eyes. Like, we know what you're doing. But just because he has extensive combat experience in another sport, which I wouldn't be completely mad at that, because we saw what happened with Brock Lesnar, but he got a title fight. I know it was a different era, but he got a title fight. Is what, 3rd fight in the UFC? He lost his first one. Then I want to say he won his second one and then got a title opportunity because he lost to Frank Mir.
He beat Heath Herring, and then he lost to Frank Mir. Then I think he beat Randy Couture for the belt, and then I think him and Mir fought for the belt after that. I think
fought Sean Carwin too.
Shane Carwin, that was like UFC 116.
Yeah, I remember watching that in my bedroom illegally on my computer. So don't come after me, feds, if y'all listening to this. This was 13 years ago. But yeah, and then the next fight, he got wrecked by Cain Velasquez because he had the diverticulitis.
Yeah, I remember being at the bar for that one, watching him get kicked in his gut and just crumbling.
So, but yeah, I mean, I know it's a different sport, but Bo Nickel, he's got experience in combat, and wrestling is like the best base you could have in MMA. So that's why I wouldn't be completely mad if he got fast track. What say you, Steve?
I like him. I like his style, and like I said, I can see a Chimaev in him. Like, it'd be a scrambling, and I think it would be a cancel out, and they both got some stand-up game. I don't think you can go wrong with the personality of if so, Chimaev always jumping in there to get a single leg or a double. That'll be an engaging fight, definitely.
And
he wrestled for Penn State. He's blue belt jiu-jitsu, so he's not just your one-trick pony wrestler. He's got a little bit of everything. From what I've seen, in his MMA fights, he's got good stand-up. He's got 3 wins by submission, 2 by knockout. So he mixes it up.
You know what I wonder? I know Olympic is a different level. I'm surprised he didn't, get a run in the Olympics. Because I think he went to trials. I don't know if he made it.
He got gold in the 2019 World Championships.
Yeah, because I was reading up on him, and I think he didn't make the cut for the Olympic trial. But
in the Olympic trials, looks like he won 4, lost 3.
Yeah, but like you said, he was pretty much untouchable in college. And I guess like maybe the Olympics had a different style because you saw that with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar didn't make Olympic, but he was the heavyweight champion back in college. So
his NCAA record when he was in college, 120-3.
It's crazy. And then you got a guy like Cejudo. I heard he like squeaked on the team and he ended up winning a gold medal. Like it wasn't expected at all for him to win that medal. Is what I'm trying to say.
What about Yoel? He participated in the Olympics, didn't he?
Yeah, he's a silver medalist.
Silver.
And I know it's like two different styles. You got the Greco-Roman and then the freestyle. I can't remember what Roel won. But styles make matchups. So I guess maybe that's a lot it deals with when talking about Olympic wrestling. I don't know the ins and outs, but yeah.
I guess I have one more piece of news. And not really news that I have, but news that I want to know about. Why is everybody talking about Ian Gary? Like, why is this dude constantly in like the headlines, and why are people constantly shit talking this dude?
Google Ian Gary's wife, and that'll answer it for you. That'll answer it for you.
I've heard.
So, I mean, he's a young prospect, and he could talk some, and he's undefeated. So, when those worlds come up, go ahead.
My bad, I didn't mean to interrupt. If you look at a Sean Strickland breakdown, he pretty much breaks it down about why he's like trending, and well, I think that's what made him trend a lot more. But basically, I guess part of it is, I'm guessing he took his wife's last name. If I'm not mistaken.
I know she's older.
Older.
She's significantly older. I think she's like 40 and he's like 25.
And I think he changed his last name to hers, which is, whatever it was worth, they're giving him shit for that.
Very progressive.
Yeah, and she's 40, he's 26, and she's also his manager. And her ex-husband is his nutritionist.
Yeah,
that's all kinds of shit.
They basically call him the C word. We'll
let the listeners put the pieces together on that one. I don't know why he's been trending. Maybe because his out of the cage, his personal life, maybe. But I mean, UFC's been pushing this guy, so whether the hype is deserved or not, it usually always works itself out in the cage. If he's not the real deal, and we'll see firsthand.
He's been having his opinion on other fighters too, which gives people the leniency to give him shit back. I think he had an opinion on a few fighters on the card coming up, talking about them. I think Khalil Roundtree too even had words with him this last weekend, talking crap about himself.
And before we get in the fight, we'll make that a little quick hit. Khalil Roundtree.
Oh yeah.
Admire. I don't know if you can look this up real quick. Leon Edwards kicked Ian Gary out of his gym. Yeah, this is a story from like a month or two ago, and I still really don't know the details behind it. I don't know why that they kicked him out of the gym, but that was a big deal, and I don't know why Ian Gary put this out in the public. I feel like that's something that maybe could have stayed behind the scenes. And yeah, I still really know how I feel about the guy like that. He's not like a hateable guy, but I gotta see some more out of the cage, and we'll get a chance to see that this weekend. And I know you're doing the research on it a little bit, Admire.
Oh, it just Leon Edwards spoke on it and said that Ian Gary's just kind of a lot to deal with. This is the third gym he's been kicked out of. Everywhere he goes, there's a camera there. His wife's there, his kid's there. So it's just like always a lot of shit going on.
Yeah, it just sounds like, I don't know, maybe he's one of those guys that's posting everything on social media. Not everything's made for the gram. So I could see that being a reason. Like, if you're training for a camp, do you want somebody possibly recording and then leaking stuff, and maybe your game plan is out there?
Right. Right, exactly. And then says Edwards said that he kind of stung him in some sparring, but that's about it. Just says he's a lot to deal with. So is what it is.
But how do y'all feel about that? Because Ian Gary's the guy. I do like this about him. He's like, why would I stay at one camp? I want to go to different camps and learn other things. Like, I'm constantly trying to find new places to learn from. So how do y'all feel about his strategy?
I mean, I think that's just an excuse to justify getting bounced around gym to gym. But I mean, the dude's got a undefeated record. I mean, you can't really say anything bad about it. I mean, he's got, a good little streak going. His last fight, he beat Neil Magny. That, he's kind of a gatekeeper style guy. But let's see what he really does against, as he moves up. He's fighting Luque, so.
I think we may have a scenario to where, say, your dad might be known as a coach or mother, and might be known in the, the community, but that's like having a parent coming to somebody else's house that teaches and trying to tell them how to do things, or, oh, Ian needs this. And I think that might be something that be going on in those gyms, trying to be control and handling, messing up the culture in the gym, so to speak, and trying to adjust to him only.
Now, see, I haven't been following all the different stuff. That's why I brought it up. Now, Ian Gary's from Ireland. Is he being touted as the next McGregor? Or does he run with McGregor or anything like that?
I don't think he runs with McGregor. But when you have a fighter out of that region,
they're going to get that comparison automatically.
Yeah. And then, you have the stereotypes, the fighting Irish. And so.
Plus, he did the money walk when he won one time. So, hey, that's Conor McGregor, the floppy arms while he walks.
Yeah.
After the win.
He's definitely bigger than I thought. Looking at his stats, he's 6'3".
Damn. I didn't know that.
And like you said, he's 26. I mean, he was a kid still when McGregor was rising up the ranks, which makes me feel old because me and McGregor are the same age, and I feel like that was yesterday McGregor hit the scene. But that's crazy. You got a lot of kids that were looking up to McGregor, and now they're at the age where they're fighting. So it's kind of a trip right there. But we'll get into the details of the fight in a little bit. But before we get into the card, it was a fight night card this past weekend. We're not going to get into the details of it. It was Song Young Dung and Chris Gutierrez in the main event, which was, it was all right. I watched the card. But in that co-main event, you had Khalil Roundtree defeating Anthony Smith by TKO in that third round. And did y'all get a chance to see the highlights of this?
I think I did see it, or I seen a picture of it. Did he kind of knock Anthony Smith out on his feet?
Oh yeah,
baby deer legs.
Yeah, it was bad. Like he stumbled back, and then Khalil Roundtree was about to throw the hammer of Thor on him, but then the ref finally. It was weird because he had his hand cocked up in the air like that. He was like, "Don't make me do this," and the ref took a little time. The ref took a little bit of time before he's like, "All right, this guy's done." And Anthony Smith just looked completely wrecked, and it was definitely a coming out performance for Roundtree. He's always been on my radar, but him being a top 5 dude like that, he's going to be on a lot of other people's radar, and I was impressed.
I was going to say, Anthony Smith, though, man, he hasn't really been the same since John Jones.
That's true. He'll win one, lose one. But, I mean, it's pretty much every fighter after facing John Jones. The only one who was able to dig himself out was Glover Teixeira somehow. I don't know how he did it, even at his advanced age. Yeah.
Even being knocked to hell by rest in peace, passed away, Anthony Johnson. Still playing back to be a good fighter after those devastating losses.
You know,
But yeah,
I'm still, people talk about the John Jones and Stipe fight not happening. What if it never happens? I'm still sad that the Anthony Johnson John Jones fight never happened. Man, that would have been so good. Anthony Johnson was he was a big dude. Like, I can't believe he used to fight welterweight. That dude
yeah.
used to cut from like 230 down to 170. That's insane.
And it's so crazy. When he left the UFC, he ended up being around 300 pounds, body lifting, And I guess something happened to him where he started deteriorating. But he definitely gained muscle mass after the UFC. Could have been
I don't think they ever officially released what he died from, did they?
He had like a cancer. He had cancer, a form of cancer.
Oh, he had lymphoma. Damn.
Yeah.
Because
Unfortunate.
that was like right in the middle of COVID. I thought it might have been COVID related.
Nah. Yeah, rest in peace to Rumble Johnson. It would have been exciting, especially the hype around the fight, because they had it booked, and then stuff happened with Jones. But I think he might have got like a good shot on Jones. But I think Jones would have figured out that puzzle because Cormier. I know MMA math, styles make fights, but Cormier beat Johnson twice. So, but it would have been fun.
Yeah, I think even when Anthony Johnson used to fight at welterweight, I think Josh Koscheck even, handled it pretty well with his wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Koscheck.
Did I know Johnson, what was his last fight? Because I feel like him and Yoel, that would have been a banger.
I think it was a PFL fight or his last whatever organization.
It was Bellator. Yeah,
he had I think that was his last time.
It's probably like 2021. I want to say
2021 he fought Jose Azevedo. That was
he barely got
fight.
out of that. I think
I remember watching that at a place I had in Ashland. Yeah.
Oh, A-Town.
Yeah, exactly.
Ashland, man, I've been there.
Small area. I think they had him in like in the works, but I think he got sick and they ended up not being able to put it on. I might be wrong, but that would have been that would have been definitely intriguing to watch. But yeah, rest in peace to Anthony Rumble Johnson. But fellas, we got a card this weekend. We finally need to get into UFC 296 taking place from the entertainment capital of the world, Las Vegas. So like we always do, let's go over these early prelims, see if any of these fights catch our interest. You got Randy Brown versus Muslim Sokolov at welterweight. You got Martin Buday facing Shamil Ghazi in heavyweight division. Andre Touchy-Feely, he's in the early prelims versus Lucas Almeida. Then you got Tagir Ulanbekov versus Cody Durden at flyweight. Light heavyweight, you got Alonzo Menefield, who's always a game fighter, versus Dustin Jacoby in the light heavyweight division in the early prelims. And then we move on to the preliminary cards, which is on ESPN 2. We got Casey O'Neill, women's flyweight, versus Ariana Lipsky. Cody Garbrandt, Admire's guy, bantamweight division, versus Brian Kelleher. Then we got Irene Aldana, women's bantamweight, versus Carol Rosa. And then the featured fight on the prelims, we got Josh Emmett in the featherweight division versus Bryce Mitchell, Arkansas boy. Any of these fights pique your interest, fellas?
I think that's a good prelim lineup. I mean, on the early prelims, Andre Feely, he's always a good fight. Then coming into the regular prelims, I mean, Casey O'Neill, I like watching her fight. You mentioned Cody Garbrandt. He's always a gamer, whether he's knocking somebody out or getting knocked out, it's always going to be a good fight. Irene Aldana, excited to see her fight again. And then Bryce Mitchell stepping in late notice to fill in against Josh Emmett. That should be a real good fight, man. Like that right there, these prelims could be a UFC fight night.
No, it could have been the UFC fight night last weekend.
Yeah,
Steve.
definitely. I'm of course I'm a Randy Brown. He's been a good person, a prospect that's coming up. I think that has skill. Andre Philly, of course. Let's see. We got Alonzo Minefield. I've been having, I think he had a loss not too long, but I think he's on a streak now. So I've been looking at him. I think he had a good win also his last fight. Ariana Lipsky, that's one of my girls. I always tend to look forward to go out my way to see her fight. Cody Garbrandt, of course, former champion, and Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell. Been looking at Bryce Mitchell. I don't know if I'm thinking of the one that he said he was tired and lost, but that wasn't his last fight. Did he win his last fight? Bryce Mitchell?
I want to say, yeah. So
Okay.
Bryce Mitchell's last fight, he had something scheduled, but then it got scrapped. But I know Admire has a pose up. His last fight.
He fought that Dan Ige like 3 months ago.
Okay.
He was supposed to fight Jonathan Pierce at UFC 288 in May. Pierce withdrew due to injury, and he fought that. He was supposed to fight Evlov, that Mobsar.
Okay, I see it. It seems that he ran into a problem with Tuperia, but I almost forgot he fought Barboza. He won that. So I'm looking forward to definitely Mitchell fighting. What is he fighting? Emmett, which is a tough fight, which we know that he has knockout power and can handle himself with wrestling, just like Mitchell can. So we're going to see if it cancels out or who dominates on the ground more.
I'm excited for a lot of these prelim fights.
Yeah.
Steve touched on earlier, got Alonzo Minifield versus Dustin Jacoby, light heavyweight. So I don't think that fight goes the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them showed flashes early on in their career where they could get the job done. They might lose a fight here and there, but it's like the perfect guys that you want to put on a early prelim to get the crowd hyped up. So definitely looking forward to that one. Like both of y'all said, Casey O'Neill, Ariana Lipsky. That'll be an exciting one to kick it off. Cody Garbrandt, this might be his like last hoorah to show that he still got some left in the tank. Facing always game Brian Keller, a scrappy guy. So what do y'all think? Y'all think if Cody loses this, that he might want to try his hand in a different company, maybe? He's not that old.
He would be a good one to go over to PFL if something happens. He's 32. He's coming. He won his last one, but then he had 2 losses before that, one before that, 3 losses before that. So he's riding that up down wave. And I think if he loses this one, he needs to take a look outside the organization. He has a lot of name value. He would be good for PFL. He would probably shine very well over there, but I'm kind of just worried about his chin at this point because of his last 7 fights, he's lost 5 and all but 1. So 4 of them have been KO. He's been knocked out. And that one that he won against that Rafael Sunsao, he was kind of getting beat up in that fight. And that was the one he got that knockout right as the horn blew. You remember that?
I do.
Yeah. So I mean, he was on his way out in that fight pretty much, and he landed that good. I think it was a right hook to knock him out last second, but he was kind of getting just beat up in that fight. So I think this is a make or break for his career in the UFC.
And I've never really seen a fall from grace, so to speak, like his, but it was like a quiet fall from grace. Like he didn't get, blasted in the media like that or made fun of a lot, because going into the Dominic Cruz fight, remember he was undefeated and he won the belt, and everybody was thinking this is the next like all-time great possibly, and
I was on that train. I was on that hype train.
Because the way he was handling Cruz, this was like when Cruz still had that aura around him, always beating Uriah Faber, getting the best of that series, and had that movement, and he had the talk behind it, and then he went in there, he was dropping Cruz. I remember that fight because I remember I was in Oregon at the time.
He stopped in the middle of the fight and did push-ups when he was fighting Cruz,
and then was breakdancing.
Yeah, clowned the whole fight, and I was just like, man, this kid's got movement. He can defend the takedown. He can wrestle if he gets on the ground. He's got knockout power. This guy's the next big thing. And then TJ Dillashaw just like starches him twice in a row.
And we know why Dillashaw did it, but still, yeah. And to have it happen so young, it'd be a different story if he was like 35 and like, all right, this is probably like the crossroads of your career but he was still in his 20s when it happened. It's so weird. I don't understand it. Like, I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Probably his style, inviting fights, deterioration in the gym. I can say that and the TJ fight and after that done something to his brain to where, martial arts, you got to succumb and conquer your demons, which we see his behavior in the octagon, that he hasn't let something go because he got caught by damn near the same punch in 3 fights like that, going in instead of catching with the right hook. TJ Dillashaw, I think, who caught him with that same thing?
Pedro Munoz.
Cara France, I think, did he? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you said, who did you say?
Pedro Munoz.
Yep, caught him with it. Yeah, I think if he doesn't win this, you're gonna have to go to another league with a smaller pond, but you're a bigger fish. And even then, you might be the same fish as people in the pond.
Right. I mean, I know we're sitting here talking about his chin might not be there, but he's got a style that's made for bare knuckle. He likes that stand up. He likes the exchanges and stuff, but I just don't know that his chin would hold up that good. But I mean, I'm going to watch him wherever he goes, but I think that'd be fun. He's kind of got that Mike Perry swag.
Yeah. If you got a weak chin, then I don't think bare knuckle is going to be your cup of tea. You might end up going into early retirement, even earlier than what you wanted to. That's brutal. But yeah, I say PFL, maybe one championship. That could be. I don't know how he feels about living overseas, but I feel like he'd fit well in the one championship as well. Get that name value. Like you said, you're a former UFC champion. You're always going to carry some name value to you. But best of luck to him, because Brian Kelleher, that's no walk in the park. So I can see that fight going either way. But also with the Josh Emmett and Bryce Mitchell fight, I think that's going to be a really good one. It's really a chance for Mitchell to show that he could reach that next level, because Emmett is a former title contender, even though it was an interim title. He still fought for one. And he was like top 3, top 2. Maybe top 4, but yeah, Bryce Mitchell, he's always having a quote or two. He's a zany guy. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking out all the fights on prelims and maybe even some of the early prelims. Let's get into this main card, fellas. Kicking this card off at the welterweight division, we got Vicente Luque and a guy that we were just talking about, Ian Machado Gary. So we're coming up to the end of our year predictions, and basically it's coming down to me and Steve. So I mean, I'm not gonna tell you who to pick, Steve, but basically the only chance for you to catch me is if you pick like the opposite of what I picked. Because on the year you're 21 and 22, and I'm 25 and 18, and my year 17 and 26. So it's no shot for you, but it's no shot for Jay catching you either, because he's 10 and 9. So you kind of just stuck between a rock and a hard place. So let's get these predictions underway. What do y'all think? Vicente Luque or Ian Machado Gary? What say you, Admire?
Man, just from what I know about Ian Gary, I don't want to like the guy, but he's good. Luque coming off of a win over RDA, but he has 2 losses before that. He lost to Jeff Neal and Bilal Muhammad.
And don't forget about Gary's got a pretty quality, solid win against Neil Magny, even though it was unanimous decision.
I gotta go with Ian Gary.
Okay. Ian Gary. Steve, who you got?
I'll have to go with, I think Vicente. He's a grinder, and I think he's a veteran that's been in there. I think he might be able to get. I think it's a matter of length.
But before you make your pick, sorry to cut you off. We're gonna make this interesting. Like I said, I want you to pick whoever you want to pick, but I'm gonna go first every time to see if you go off on a limb and pick the opposite of what I picked. Just to make this interesting. I'm gonna go with Ian Machado Gary on this one.
I'll go with Vicente Luque. That's what I think. Veteran.
Oh, okay, so
see, and I almost went that way. I almost went that way just because he is the veteran and he's the grinder.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so me and Admire have Gary, and Steve's gonna make it a little bit spicy. He's got Luque, and I'll get Jay's picks off record just to have him cap off the year as well. Next fight. Sure, we have a couple things to say about this next fight. We got Tony Ferguson facing Patty the Batty Pimblett in the lightweight division. I think I just don't trust Ferguson's chin anymore. I think I'm gonna go with Patty the Batty Pimblett to take this one. Who you got, Admire?
I'm taking Tony Ferguson 100% on this. Tony Ferguson is riding a 6-fight losing streak, which is like unheard of in the UFC. But I mentioned a couple episodes ago, Tony Ferguson has been training with David Goggins. That's dude's like a jack of all trades. But I think Tony Ferguson's losses have been mental, and I think this gets him back on track. And riding 6 losses, you're going home after this if you lose. So I think Tony Ferguson's coming in here with his mind right. And I don't like Patty Pimblett. He lost that last fight. He lost. I don't care what anybody says. That was some horrible judging. I don't know who paid the judges or what they saw. He lost. So give me Tony Ferguson.
Admire is going with his heart and not his head on this one. And I don't know if Ferguson gets cut after this fight, because we saw with smiling Sam Alvey, he lost like 9 in a row and still stayed employed. Steve, what say you?
I'm gonna have to go with Tony Ferguson. I want to know what that David Goggins camp looking like. I want to see if he outworks him. Do I have high hopes for it just based off of his track record right now, his 6-fight wins streak, and you're right. I think a lot of his losses come from mental, yes, and also mental from losing brain cells. I'm not sure, but I'm going with Tony Ferguson is because I know he has heart. Paddy Pimblett leaves his head open. He's gotten cracked by, I think, his first fight in the UFC, and I don't think he's corrected that. I don't think you can correct that overnight, although it has been a while since his first MMA fight. I'm gonna have to get Tony Ferguson because I think he can hurt him and go at it with him on the ground, although he hasn't been looking all too bright with that, but he has been going up with elite if he has been having trouble on the ground like Charles Oliveira. So I think he might have a chance also on the ground.
Oh, so Steve is going the spicy route. So far, he's chosen the opposite of my picks.
And I'm not doing it on purpose either. I'm trying to configure this. There's some actually good fights to call.
So I got a feeling on this next one. All of us may be on the same page, but I don't know. Sometimes Admire surprises us. We got Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the welterweight division. And I'm a fan of Stephen Thompson. I love all he's contributed to the sport of MMA. He's from South Carolina, just like I am. He's upstate, though, low country, but I don't think it turns out well for him, fellas. I think Shavkat finishes him. This is the boogeyman in the welterweight division. I don't think nobody wants to see this guy. He finishes everybody. And I think that's the fate of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson this Saturday. He's going to get finished too by Shavkat Rakhmonov. So that's what I'm picking.
Yeah. Wonderboy's never been submitted, and it's going to happen the first time this weekend. Shavkat's got 9 wins by submission. Stephen Thompson, flashy on the stand-up, but Shavkat's the boogeyman. Let me see if I can even find the odds on this fight. I'd be interested in what they are.
I can see Shavkat being like a -3. I can see it not being like super ridiculous.
Let's take a look. Updated betting odds. Yeah, I'm going to guess he's like that, but we'll just find out. Main card. Oh, it's bad.
Is he like a -500?
Worse than that. -670.
So better. I'd take money on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
They got him at a +430. I mean, that's the only way you're making money on that fight, just to toss a little on him. I might actually have to put some money together on this because they got Ferguson at +240 and Paddy Pimblett at -330. If you tie together like Tony Ferguson and Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, I mean, not much to lose and a lot to gain. Why not? But what say you, Steve?
Always was a Stephen Thompson, and he had that aura of him to where he always give you a tough, especially on the Woodley era. Woodley was a fierce person, and he was able to withstand that, and that's what gave him a lot of his charisma that he has now. But ever since that Anthony Pettis knockout, I never liked that since then. I'm like, damn, a lightweight coming up to welterweight. And after then, I'm like, damn, anybody can knock anybody out. So I don't have faith in Thompson anymore. So, and Shavkat's looking like a beast, and they talk about him in the training camp or whatever, and they say he's a beast. So I'm gonna have to go to Shavkat.
So, Steve, we all on the same page as far as that goes. So let's talk about this co-main event, fellas. We got Alexandre Pantoja, your flyweight champion, defending his belt against Brandon Royale. Pantoja, this is his first title defense. It's always kind of hard getting that first title defense, out of the way. But I think Pantoja steps up and answers the bell and is able to hold on to that strap. And I'm pretty sure this is a rematch as well. And I think Pantoja got the best of Royval that first time they met. This was at UFC on ESPN almost 2.5 years ago in Las Vegas as well, and he finished them. I don't know if he finishes them this time, so I'm gonna say he wins it by unanimous decision this time. Give me Pantoja. Admire, what say you?
Yeah, I got to go with Pantoja as well. I think that being that first title defense, it's going to be a good showing for him.
I'm gonna have to go with Royval. Although, like he said, he's lost the last one. I like the way he fights. He has a streak, and I think his significant loss, which is I think Moreno, if I'm not mistaken, and I think if I'm not mistaken, he popped a rib or something. Had to stop the fight because of that, right? And I think that's if this is his only loss. That's the only loss I think I remember, unless I'm mistaking myself for another fighter.
So are you talking about Pantoja?
Royval.
Or Royval. So he lost a submission by Pantoja and then Moreno with TKO.
Okay, which one of those? I know did he pop a rib during a fight or something? They had to stop it.
It may have been against Moreno.
Yeah, I think that's me. It was, but I like the way he fights, and although Pantoja is a beast and beat Moreno last fight and looked pretty good at it, I'm down for somebody showing some adversity and overcoming who they last got beaten to. So I'm going to have to go with Royval.
All right. So Steve has Royval on this one. That leads us to the main event of this card. Headlining in the welterweight division, you got Leon Rocky Edwards Sorry, it's 8. I don't know where my mind's at. Versus Colby Chaos Covington for the welterweight strap. We talked about Colby a lot earlier. This is his time to show and prove, to see if he's the real deal or if he's all talk. Man. So I think Colby will crack the code somehow, because in Edwards' previous 2 fights, for some reason, Amar Usman, he just couldn't figure out Edwards. I don't know why. The first fight, they just made it a stand-up fight, and Usman got head kicked to hell. I don't know. He got caught slipping in that last minute. But the second fight was a weird one. It was a lot closer than I think that the judge scored it, because I feel like Usman was game the whole fight. But every time he tried to take him down, he really couldn't get him to the ground for some reason, which was weird, because in previous fights, Usman's been able to do what he wants. But for some reason, I got a feeling that Colby might crack the code and just put classic Colby Covington pressure on them and able to bother Edwards. And I think I'm going to say that Colby Covington becomes the new welterweight champion, which is going to be interesting to finally see him get to the spot where they've been trying to get him for years, even though he doesn't really deserve this fight because he hasn't fought in a while. But I think he's finally able to do it, and he'll be the welterweight champion. But if he doesn't, I mean, this will be the last time I pick against Edwards if he's able to crack the Colby code, because we know Colby has cardio for days and always puts the pressure. But I think I'm going to go with Colby on this one.
Yeah, I got to go with Colby on this one. I think his pressure is going to be too much. I mean, Colby's a lot like Chael Sonnen. I mean, just heavy wrestling, insane cardio, but always ends up surprising you a little bit with this stand-up. He's not really deserving of this fight, but I don't know what it is about Edwards. I bet against Edwards every time. I don't think that he's that good, even though he's the champ. He's beat a lot of people. I just think that there's certain fighters that I think this is going to be very one-sided. I think Covington finishes him by round 3.
I think it's going to be a unanimous decision because Kobe doesn't have the heaviest of hands. But I think Edwards is good, but for some reason I just don't trust him against a wrestler. Is what I'm saying. That's why I was surprised Usman lost to him. I thought Usman would keep the pressure on him. You put Edwards against any striker in this division, I say he wins, but for some reason, I just not trusting him against a wrestler. As some wrestlers in this division, I think he's good though. What say you, Steve?
In saying that, yeah, you say striker, but a person that is a wrestler like Colby Covington and then has striking threat to get the threat off. I think because I'm just like we say MMA math. He went against Nate Diaz and got caught.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
You know what I'm saying? So Covington has the takedown threat. Well, if he comes up and dips up with the uppercut, which looks like I've seen Colby strike, and he's got tricks up his sleeve like that, faking for a cut and coming up, or getting into a brawling moments and then turning it off and going for the takedown. I think that is basically the blueprint that Kamaru Usman had, just let his eyes off the prize for the last minute and got caught. I think, of course, you can look and analyze people's last fights and adjust. I think Colby Covington's odds, just based off of the statistics, that I think Colby Covington may be able to pull this off, like EJ said. I hate to lose the war of, not the war of the seeing who's got more accurate fight calls, but I'm gonna have to go with same as you said, Colby Covington.
And bring the odds into it, they got Leon Edwards at a minus 156 favorite and Covington at a plus 122 dog. So if you tie together Colby Covington, Stephen Thompson, and Tony Ferguson and throw $5 on it, you will win 221 if those 3 win.
Hey, good odds if you want to throw a parlay in there. I mean, I think Tony Ferguson is going to mess up everybody's parlay if you try that. But weird things have happened in the world of MMA. So a lot of good fights this weekend. This is a sneakily good card. I still think it's a hardcore fighters fan card, but if you pay attention to the sport, it's a whole lot of names that you recognize. It's not like some random fight night card, because it was a recent pay-per-view that we did. It was basically like a fight night card outside like the main event, but this one is not that. So we will all be definitely watching the fights this weekend, but we have come to the end of the show at this point. Anything y'all fellas got before we get on out of here?
Nope, I think that's it. It'll be a good one to watch.
No, not at all.
So, like I said, we'll be back next week to recap this whole thing. I'm sure a lot of things will pop up off the screen, and we'll give our critiques and opinions on that. And like I said earlier, we're excited to be on the Belly Up Sports Network. So we're definitely looking for exciting things to happen out of this partnership. But that'll do it for us here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound. That was from the top. Heel hooking, no more platter.